The plasma cannon's barrel pressed against my temple as Queen Zara Thekt stepped closer, her violet eyes never leaving mine. Behind her, the crystalline throne room of the Veltar Empire stretched into shadows, its walls pulsing with bioluminescent veins that matched her heartbeat. 3 of her royal guard flanked us, their weapons trained on the human delegation cowering near the entrance. "You spoke carelessly, Ambassador Kane," she whispered, her voice carrying the authority of a ruler who had conquered 17 star systems. "Words have power in my culture. When you joked that you would accept a marriage proposal from me during the trade negotiations, you bound yourself by our most sacred law." I kept my breathing steady despite the weapon's heat against my skin. The joke had been stupid, a throwaway line when she'd asked if humans would ever truly trust alien leadership. Now that casual comment had triggered some ancient protocol I didn't understand. "Your Majesty, I was merely—" Silence. Her hand rose, and the guard increased pressure on the cannon. In Veltar tradition, when a potential mate declares acceptance before witnesses, the bond becomes sacred. You cannot withdraw your words. My translator implant struggled with her dialect, but the meaning was crystal clear. The other ambassadors pressed themselves against the wall, their faces pale with terror. We'd come here to negotiate mining rights. Now I was apparently engaged to the most powerful alien ruler in the galaxy. "The ceremony begins now," she continued, her scaled fingers trailing along the ceremonial blade at her hip. "You will drink the binding elixir, speak the oath of eternal devotion, and become my consort. Refuse, and your species forfeits all claim to the Kepler mining zones. Your colonies will starve." The implications hit like a physical blow. Earth's outer settlements depended on those rare earth deposits. Without them, terraforming projects would collapse. Millions would die. "You're holding my entire species hostage over a joke?" Her laugh was like breaking glass. "Your species makes promises lightly. Mine does not. The binding elixir awaits." She gestured to an ornate chalice that hadn't been there moments before. The liquid inside glowed with an ominous purple light. "What happens if I drink it?" "You become mine. Forever. Your lifespan extends to match mine. Approximately 800 years. Your loyalty becomes absolute. You will rule beside me as the Veltar Empire expands across the galaxy." The guard's weapons hummed with increasing energy. Through the throne room's massive windows, I could see the Veltar fleet, thousands of ships that could turn Earth's defenses to ash within hours. "And if I refuse?" "Your people resist well, but not well enough. I have studied your military capabilities extensively." Her smile revealed rows of needle-sharp teeth. This marriage was always the preferable outcome. The realization struck like lightning. This wasn't about a careless joke. She'd planned this entire scenario, manipulated the conversation to get exactly these words from me. The trade negotiations had been elaborate theater. You orchestrated this, of course. "Did you think coincidence brought Earth's most capable military advisor to my throne room as a trade ambassador? I researched your species for cycles before making contact. You are..." She'd studied our files, learned about my tactical background, my role in the Centauri Rebellion. This wasn't about love or even politics. It was a calculated acquisition of a strategic asset. "The choice is simple, Kane." She stepped closer until I could feel the heat radiating from her scaled skin. "Become my consort willingly, or watch your species burn. Either way, you will be mine." The chalice seemed to pulse with inner fire. Around us, her guards remained perfectly still, their discipline absolute. No emotion showed on their faces. This was simply duty to them. Ambassador Torres caught my eye from across the room, her expression desperate. Behind her, the rest of the delegation waited in terrified silence. The weight of their lives, of Earth's future, settled on my shoulders like a crushing gravity. "How do I know you'll honor the mining agreement if I comply?" "Because a consort's word carries the full authority of the crown. You would help govern the very treaties you negotiate." Her voice softened slightly. "I do not seek a slave, Kane. I seek an equal. Your strategic mind, your species' adaptability, these qualities attracted me to you specifically." The guard's weapon clicked as its energy reached critical charge. Time was running out. "The binding elixir," she continued, "creates an unbreakable connection between our minds. You will retain your personality, your memories, your tactical brilliance. But your deepest loyalty will belong to me, as mine will belong to you. Mutual slavery, mutual strength." She lifted the chalice with steady hands. Your people will become valued citizens of the Empire, no longer struggling on the galaxy's edge, but partners in expansion. Their genetic diversity will strengthen us. Our technology will elevate them. The offer was seductive and terrifying in equal measure. Earth would gain protection, resources, advancement beyond anything we'd imagined. But at the cost of my free will, my humanity. Decide now, Queen Zarathek commanded, her patience finally fraying. Accept the bond willingly, or I will take you by force after your people burn. The chalice waited in her outstretched hand, its contents swirling with hypnotic patterns. Behind me, I heard Torres whisper a prayer. The fate of humanity balanced on the edge of a knife, and I held the handle. The Queen's violet eyes held mine, searching for any sign of my choice. In their depths I saw intelligence, calculation, and something else. Loneliness. She ruled an empire spanning light years, commanded fleets that could shatter planets, yet she stood before me seeking something more than conquest. "Then say it," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the humming weapons. The bioluminescent walls pulsed faster, matching the acceleration of both our hearts. The chalice trembled slightly in her grip, the first sign of uncertainty I'd seen from her. Everything hung in that moment of suspended time, waiting for words that would reshape the galaxy. My hand reached toward the chalice as the Queen's breathing stopped entirely. The guards' weapons powered down simultaneously as if responding to some silent command. Ambassador Torres gripped the wall behind her, knuckles white with tension. "I need to understand exactly what this bond entails," I said, my fingers hovering inches from the glowing vessel. "If I'm signing away humanity's future, I deserve details." Queen Zarathek's expression shifted, revealing something almost like respect. "The binding creates a psychic link between us. You will feel what I feel, know what I know, within the boundaries of our respective roles. Your strategic thinking will enhance my tactical planning. My knowledge of galactic politics will inform your decisions." "And the loyalty aspect?" "Absolute, but not blind. You will serve the Empire's interests, but your council will shape what those interests become. A true consort does not simply obey. They guide." She paused, studying my face. "Your species values individual freedom above all else. Mine values collective strength. The bond bridges that gap. Through the throne room's walls, I could hear the low thrum of the fleet maintaining position. Each ship represented enough firepower to level a city. Yet here she stood, offering partnership instead of demanding surrender. Why me specifically? Earth has thousands of military strategists. "Because you adapt. Your victory at Centauri Station was not achieved through superior firepower, but through understanding your enemy's psychology. You turned their own tactics against them." Her scaled hand gestured elegantly. "That kind of thinking does not exist in my empire. We are strong, but we think linearly. You see patterns we miss." The compliment felt genuine, but I couldn't ignore the underlying threat. "And if this bond somehow fails, if I disappoint you, then you die, and your species faces the consequences of your failure." No emotion colored her words. Simple fact delivered with brutal efficiency. But the bond has never failed in our recorded history. Once formed, consorts have ruled beside their queens for millennia. Ambassador Torres cleared her throat softly. "Commander Kane, perhaps we should consult with Earth Command before—" "There is no time for consultation," the Queen interrupted, her patience wearing thin. "Your fleet approaches the system's edge. They believe they come to rescue you. Instead, they will witness either a wedding ceremony or their own destruction." My blood ran cold. I hadn't known about the rescue fleet, but of course Earth wouldn't abandon its diplomatic mission. How many ships, how many lives hung in the balance? "Admiral Morrison commands that fleet," I said slowly. "She'll fight even against impossible odds." "Yes, I have studied her psychological profile as well. She will sacrifice every ship rather than retreat." "Admirable, but pointless." The Queen's expression softened marginally. "Accept the bond, and I will welcome her as an honored guest. Refuse, and she dies with the rest." The tactical situation crystallized in my mind with devastating clarity. Morrison would indeed fight to the death, taking 30,000 crew members with her. Earth's government would respond with full military force, triggering a war that would devastate both our species. "The binding elixir," I said carefully. "Does it cause physical changes?" "Your lifespan will match mine. Your body will adapt to survive in various atmospheric conditions. Your healing rate will increase significantly." She tilted her head, studying my reaction. "You will remain human in all ways that matter, but become more than human in capabilities. The offer was seductive in ways I hadn't expected. To live for centuries, to see humanity's expansion across the galaxy, to help guide that expansion with wisdom earned through experience. And the Empire's expansion plans? Currently focused on uninhabited systems rich in rare minerals, with human tactical insight we could avoid costly conflicts with other species. Her eyes gleamed with possibility. Your people's diplomacy combined with our military might could create a golden age of peaceful expansion. The vision she painted was compelling, but I couldn't escape the fundamental truth. This was coercion dressed in silk. No matter how reasonable her arguments, she was still holding a gun to humanity's head. "The fleet Admiral Morrison commands," I said slowly. "It includes colony ships, families evacuated from the frontier stations. I am aware. 10,000 civilians among your military personnel." Her expression remained neutral. "Their safety depends entirely on your answer. The weight of 30,000 military personnel plus 10,000 civilians pressed down on me like a collapsing star. 40,000 lives balanced against my personal freedom and humanity's independence. If I agree, what guarantee do I have that you'll honor your word about treating humans fairly? The bond itself is your guarantee. Betraying your people would cause me physical pain through our connection. Harming them would be harming you and thus harming myself." She leaned closer, her voice dropping to barely a whisper. "The loyalty works both ways, Kane. I will become as devoted to your well-being as you become to mine." That revelation changed everything. The bond wasn't simple slavery, it was mutual dependence. She would be as invested in humanity's success as I would be in the Empire's growth. Through the windows, I caught sight of distant flashes that could only be FTL signatures. Morrison's fleet was dropping out of hyperspace right on schedule. In minutes, they would be close enough to open communications, close enough to trigger whatever response the Queen had planned. "Time runs short," she said, following my gaze. "Choose now, Ambassador Kane. Will you save your people through sacrifice or lose them through pride?" The chalice waited between us, its glow intensifying as if responding to the approaching deadline. The bioluminescent walls had shifted to deep red, either a warning or preparation for battle. The Royal Guard remained statue still, but their weapons were fully charged. I looked one last time at the delegation, at Torres with her fearful eyes and diplomatic training that meant nothing here. Then I met the Queen's gaze directly. My hand closed around the chalice's stem as the first communication from Morrison's fleet crackled through the throne room speakers. "This is Admiral Morrison of the Earth Defense Fleet. Release our diplomatic team immediately or face the consequences." Queen Zarathek smiled, revealing those needle-sharp teeth. "Perfect timing," she murmured. "Now she will witness the birth of a new age." The chalice felt warm in my hands, its contents swirling with hypnotic patterns. Through the liquid's glow, I could see my reflection distorted and strange. The moment balanced on a knife's edge, 40,000 lives waiting for salvation or death. "Admiral Morrison." The Queen spoke into her communication array, her voice carrying absolute authority. "You arrived just in time for a celebration. Your ambassador has accepted my proposal of marriage. You are welcome to attend the ceremony." Morrison's response was immediate and furious. "Like hell he has." "Kane, report your status immediately." The Queen's eyes never left mine as she waited for my response. Whether you're looking for commercial voice acting or podcast narration or some property of the liquid itself, I couldn't tell. "Admiral," I said slowly, my voice carrying across the throne room with perfect clarity, "prepare the diplomatic protocols for a formal alliance ceremony." Silence stretched across the communication channel for heartbeats that felt like hours. Finally, Morrison's voice returned, confused and carefully controlled. "Commander Kane, please clarify your status and intentions." "I'm about to become Prince Consort of the Veltar Empire," I replied, surprised by the steadiness in my own voice. "The Queen has offered terms that will benefit both our species significantly." "Under duress, I assume." Queen Zarathek's hand settled on my shoulder, her touch surprisingly gentle despite her claws. "Admiral Morrison, your officer speaks of his own free will. However, time constraints require immediate decision-making. Join us in the throne room or maintain your current distance. Either choice is acceptable." The tactical implications were clear. Come close enough to witness the ceremony, or stay far enough away to avoid immediate destruction if negotiations failed. Morrison was too smart not to recognize the ultimatum hidden in that polite invitation. "We're coming aboard," Morrison announced. "One shuttle minimal escort." "Excellent. Your timing will be perfect." The Queen gestured to her guards, who finally relaxed their weapons stance. "Prepare the ceremonial chamber. We have a wedding to conduct." The chalice grew warmer in my hands as preparation sounds echoed through the massive ship around us. Somewhere beyond the throne room's walls, crew members were arranging what would either be a celebration or a funeral, depending on how the next hour unfolded. "Are you afraid?" Queen Zarathek asked quietly, her voice meant only for me. "Terrified," I admitted. "But not of you. Of losing yourself. Of failing everyone who trusted me." I met her eyes directly. "If this bond changes me into someone who doesn't care about humanity's welfare, it will not. The connection enhances existing loyalties rather than replacing them." She moved closer, her presence simultaneously threatening and oddly comforting. "Your care for your people will become part of what drives me. My protection of the Empire will become part of what drives you." That sounds almost too convenient to be true. Truth often appears convenient when viewed from the proper perspective. Her smile was sharp, but not unkind. "The Veltar Empire has lasted for millennia because we choose our alliances carefully. Your species offers something we lack: creative tactical thinking. In return, we offer security, resources, and expansion opportunities beyond your current imagination." The proposition was sound from a strategic standpoint, but the personal cost remained staggering. I would cease to exist as an independent entity, becoming part of something larger and more complex than any human had ever experienced. "The other species in your empire?" I asked. "Do they have consorts among your royal family?" "None possess the qualities necessary for such elevation." Her tone suggested this was a significant honor, not a common political arrangement. Most species think in terms of submission or domination. Yours thinks in terms of cooperation and adaptation. That perspective is valuable. Through the windows, Morrison's shuttle became visible as a bright speck against the starfield. The rescue fleet maintained position just outside the system's gravity well, close enough to respond quickly, far enough to avoid immediate annihilation. "She's bringing her best people," I observed, recognizing the shuttle's configuration. "Marines, probably. Ready for trouble." "Good. They should witness strength." The Queen's expression grew thoughtful. "Your Admiral Morrison interests me. Her tactical record suggests she would make an excellent fleet commander within the Empire. She'd never accept such a position. Perhaps not initially, but watching her friend prosper in Imperial service might change her perspective." The Queen's political acumen was becoming more apparent with each exchange. "I do not seek to destroy your people's leadership, Kane. I seek to incorporate it." The shuttle had almost reached the landing bay. Soon, Morrison would be here with her Marines, ready to extract me from what she undoubtedly saw as a hostage situation. The irony wasn't lost on me. She was walking into a trap designed to save her life and the lives of everyone under her command. "The binding elixir," I said, lifting the chalice to eye level. "What exactly does it contain?" "Nanobiological agents that will rewrite portions of your neural chemistry. Genetic modifiers to extend your lifespan and enhance your physical capabilities. Psychoactive compounds to facilitate the mental bond between us." She spoke matter-of-factly, as if discussing the weather. "The process is irreversible and begins immediately upon consumption. How long until the changes take full effect?" "The bond forms instantly. Physical modifications complete within one local day. You will feel the connection to me as soon as the liquid touches your lips." Footsteps echoed from the corridor outside the throne room. Morrison and her team approaching with characteristic military precision. The moment of choice was arriving faster than I'd hoped. "Your people are here," Queen Zarathek observed unnecessarily. "Shall we proceed?" The chalice felt heavier in my hands, though its actual weight hadn't changed. Everything I had ever been stood on the threshold of transformation into something unprecedented and unknown. The throne room doors opened with a deep, resonant sound that seemed to come from the ship's very bones. Admiral Morrison strode in first, her hand resting on her sidearm, her expression a masterpiece of controlled fury. Behind her, 6 Marines in full combat armor took defensive positions. "Commander Kane," Morrison's voice cut through the chamber like a blade. "Step away from the hostile and report your status immediately." Queen Zarathek's laugh filled the space between us, rich with genuine amusement rather than mockery. "Admiral, your timing is impeccable. You arrive precisely as your officer prepares to accept my formal proposal of marriage." Morrison's hand didn't move from her weapon, but her eyes narrowed as she processed the unexpected information. Marriage proposal? A binding alliance between our species? The Queen clarified smoothly. Your Commander Kane has agreed to serve as my consort in exchange for preferential trading status and mutual defense agreements. Under duress, under negotiation. The Queen's tone remained perfectly diplomatic, as is customary in such arrangements between sovereign powers. Morrison's gaze shifted to me, searching for any sign that I was being coerced. The plasma cannon had been lowered but not holstered. The message was clear. Cooperation was expected. Resistance would be met with overwhelming force. Kane, Morrison said carefully, what are your actual orders regarding this situation? The question was a lifeline disguised as protocol. Whatever I said next would determine whether she attempted a rescue mission or accepted the political reality before us. My orders were to secure the best possible outcome for humanity, I replied, watching her face for understanding. This arrangement offers benefits that far exceed our initial objectives. At what personal cost? Significant. I held up the chalice so she could see its contents, but manageable, given the alternatives. Morrison was too experienced not to read between those lines. Her posture remained alert, but the subtle relaxation around her eyes showed she was beginning to grasp the larger situation. Your Majesty, she addressed the Queen directly, what specific guarantees can you provide regarding human autonomy within this proposed alliance? Your colonies will maintain local governance under Earth's existing administrative structures. Trade routes will be protected by Imperial forces. Territorial expansion will be supported through our military resources. The Queen gestured to a holographic display that materialized between them. In return, human tactical expertise will be integrated into our command structure. The display showed star maps with proposed expansion routes, resource allocation charts, and defensive positioning that would benefit both species enormously. It was a comprehensive plan that had clearly been in development for months. This was always your intention, Morrison realized. The trade negotiations were a pretense, an opening gambit. Your species responds poorly to direct conquest but excels at negotiated partnerships. The Queen's political sophistication was becoming impossible to ignore. This arrangement serves both our interests while avoiding unnecessary bloodshed. Morrison studied the tactical displays with professional intensity. Despite her personal concern for my welfare, she was still an admiral responsible for humanity's strategic interests. The deal being offered was genuinely favorable from a military standpoint. The bond Commander Kane would undergo, she pressed. Is it reversible under any circumstances? No. But neither is it restrictive in the way your people might imagine. The Queen moved to stand beside me, her presence radiating confidence. Consorts have historically influenced imperial policy as much as they have served it. Your officers' insights would become part of how the Empire operates. Meaning human values would be integrated into Veltar culture, just as imperial knowledge would be integrated into human understanding. The Queen's smile was sharp, but not unkind. Cultural evolution, Admiral, not cultural domination. Morrison exchanged glances with her Marines, who remained ready for violence but were clearly struggling to identify an appropriate target. The situation had moved far beyond anything their training had prepared them for. Commander Kane, Morrison said formally, as your superior officer, I need your professional assessment of this proposal. The weight of command responsibility settled between us like a familiar burden. She was asking me to evaluate the offer as a strategic decision rather than a personal sacrifice. From a tactical standpoint, the benefits outweigh the risks, I replied honestly. Human expansion capabilities would increase exponentially. Our defensive position would become unassailable. The technological exchange would advance our civilization by centuries. And from a personal standpoint? The cost is high, but the alternative is unacceptable. I lifted the chalice slightly. If refusing means watching our colonies starve and our fleet die, then this isn't really a choice. Queen Zarathek watched our exchange with obvious interest, her intelligence clearly analyzing every word and gesture for insight into human command dynamics. Admiral Morrison, she interjected, you may observe the ceremony or depart as you prefer. But the decision has been made. Your officer understands the strategic necessities involved. Morrison's jaw tightened. I'd like a few minutes to discuss this privately with Commander Kane. But be aware that your fleet's approach has triggered automatic defensive protocols. They have perhaps 20 minutes before my commanders interpret their advance as hostile action. The time pressure was deliberate and effective. Morrison couldn't afford lengthy deliberations when thousands of lives hung in the balance. 5 minutes, Morrison said curtly. Private consultation. The Queen gestured to her guards, who withdrew to the far end of the throne room but remained obviously alert. We weren't truly alone, but we had the illusion of privacy for crucial conversation. "Talk to me honestly," Morrison said, her voice low and urgent. "Is there any other option?" "I've analyzed every angle. She planned this perfectly." I kept my own voice equally quiet. The joke gave her legal justification under their customs. The fleet's arrival created time pressure. The mining rights provided economic leverage. Every element was orchestrated to reach this exact moment. Can we fight our way out? Not without massive casualties on both sides. And even if we escaped, the larger conflict would be devastating. I met her eyes directly. "This is damage control, Admiral. The best outcome available under impossible circumstances." Morrison's tactical mind was working furiously, searching for alternatives that didn't exist. The political implications back on Earth will be severe. Accusations of surrender, collaboration with hostile forces. Better than explaining why 40,000 people died because we refused to negotiate. I glanced toward the Queen, who was maintaining a respectful distance while obviously listening to every word. Besides, this puts a human in position to influence Imperial policy directly. It's a risk, but the alternative is certain disaster. Morrison was quiet for a long moment, weighing options that all led to the same conclusion. Finally, she nodded once, the sharp, decisive gesture of an officer accepting an unpalatable but necessary decision. "For what it's worth," she said softly, "I think you're making the right call." "Have you reached a conclusion, Admiral?" "We have." Morrison's voice carried formal authority. "Commander Kane is authorized to proceed with negotiations as he sees fit." "Excellent." The Queen's satisfaction was evident but restrained. "Then let us begin the ceremony proper. Your people will witness the birth of a new alliance." I raised the chalice toward my lips, its contents casting purple light across my face. The liquid smelled like ozone and something floral I couldn't identify. Through the windows, Morrison's fleet waited in tense formation, unaware their fate was being decided by a single drink. "To the future," I said, and tipped the chalice toward my mouth. The liquid touched my lips like liquid fire, burning away everything I had been while simultaneously building something new. The change began immediately, alien thoughts touching the edges of my consciousness like whispered secrets. Queen Zarathek gasped softly, her hand pressing against her chest as the bond formed between us. Through the connection, I felt her surprise at the intensity of the link. She had expected a strategic partnership. Instead, she was experiencing something far more profound. My memories flooded through her mind while hers poured into mine. The tactical challenges facing the Empire, the loneliness of absolute authority, the genuine desire for a partner who could understand the burden of leadership, all of it became part of my understanding in seconds that felt like hours. Morrison and her Marines watched in stunned silence as my appearance began to shift. My skin took on a faint luminescent quality, my eyes reflected the purple glow of the binding agent, my posture straightened as enhanced strength flowed through my muscles. But the most dramatic change was in my perception of the situation around us. Through the Queen's knowledge, I could see tactical possibilities I'd never imagined. Her fleet wasn't just positioned for defense, it was arranged to protect Morrison's ships while demonstrating Imperial strength. Every element of this encounter had been designed not to humiliate humanity but to elevate it to partnership. "The bond is complete," Queen Zarathek announced, her voice carrying a note of wonder. Through our link, I felt her amazement at the clarity my tactical thinking brought to her strategic planning. "Admiral Morrison, I present Prince Consort Kane, co-ruler of the Velter Empire and protector of human interests within our domains." Morrison's expression was unreadable as she studied my transformed appearance. "Commander Kane, do you retain independent will?" "I do." The answer came without hesitation, backed by absolute certainty. The bond enhances rather than replaces. I remain myself, but with expanded capabilities and perspectives. "And your loyalty to Earth?" Unchanged and now backed by Imperial resources, I gestured to the tactical displays still hovering in the air. "Admiral, what would you say to tripling the effectiveness of our colonial defense networks within 6 months?" Her eyes widened as the implications became clear. "That's ambitious. Conservative, actually. With Imperial technology and human tactical innovation, we could establish defensive positions that would make our territories effectively unconquerable." I felt the Queen's agreement flow through our bond. The Empire needs our perspective. We need their resources. The partnership benefits everyone. Morrison looked between the Queen and me, searching for any sign that the bond had compromised my judgment. What she saw instead was enhanced capability combined with unchanged core values. "The mining rights we came to negotiate?" she asked. "Granted in perpetuity," Queen Zarathek replied, "along with exclusive access to 3 additional systems rich in rare earth minerals. Your colonies will prosper beyond their founders' wildest dreams. In exchange for tactical consultation on expansion planning, cultural exchange programs, and joint military exercises to enhance both our forces' capabilities." The Queen's smile was genuinely warm now, transforming her entire demeanor. "Your species has much to offer beyond raw materials, Admiral." Through our bond, I felt the Queen's genuine respect for Morrison's leadership qualities. She wasn't seeing the Admiral as a defeated enemy, but as a potential ally worthy of cultivation. "There will be resistance on Earth to this arrangement," Morrison warned. "Politicians who see any alien alliance as surrender." "Then we will demonstrate the benefits through results rather than rhetoric," I said, the response coming naturally through enhanced understanding. "When colonies report improved security and increased prosperity, opposition will diminish. And if it doesn't?" Queen Zarathek's expression grew serious. "Then those who oppose peace will learn why the Empire has remained unchallenged for millennia. But I prefer cooperation to conquest." The underlying threat was clear but delivered with diplomatic finesse. Earth's leaders would have a choice: accept the benefits of alliance or face the consequences of continued hostility. Morrison nodded slowly. "I'll need to report these developments to Earth Command immediately." "Of course. Use our communication arrays. They will provide instantaneous contact regardless of distance." The Queen gestured toward a control alcove. "Your superiors should understand the full scope of what has been accomplished here." As Morrison moved toward the communication station, I felt a profound shift in my understanding of galactic politics. Through the Queen's memories, I could see the broader strategic picture: dozens of species existing in careful balance, trade routes spanning thousands of light years, territorial disputes that could destabilize entire sectors. Humanity had been playing a dangerous game on the galaxy's edge, growing strong enough to attract attention but not strong enough to demand respect. This alliance changed everything, elevating us from potential prey to protected partners. The ceremony itself, I asked the Queen privately through our developing mental link, "What does it involve?" Her mental response carried amusement and affection in equal measure. Formal declarations before witnesses, exchange of ceremonial weapons, and a public announcement to the Empire. Nothing that will compromise your dignity or human sensibilities. And afterward? We begin the real work, integrating our forces, planning expansion routes, establishing the cultural exchange programs that will bind our peoples together. Her excitement was palpable through the bond. "You have no idea how long I have hoped for a partner capable of understanding both the burden and the opportunity of leadership." Morrison's conversation with Earth Command was intense but brief. When she returned, her expression was carefully neutral. "Earth Command acknowledges the strategic value of this arrangement," she announced. "You have full authorization to proceed with alliance negotiations." "Excellent," the Queen replied. "Then let us formalize what has already been decided. Guards, prepare the ceremonial chamber. Admiral Morrison, you and your people will serve as witnesses to this historic moment." As we moved toward the adjoining chamber, I caught Morrison's eye and saw her slight nod of approval. Despite the unconventional circumstances, she recognized the strategic victory we had achieved. The ceremonial chamber was a marvel of crystalline architecture, its walls carved with the history of every significant alliance in Veltar history. Hundreds of holographic witnesses materialized as the Empire's leadership joined the ceremony virtually. Queen Zarathek took position before the central altar, her bearing radiating authority that had been earned through conquest and maintained through wisdom. "Prince Consort Kane," she said formally, "do you accept the responsibilities of co-rulership within the Veltar Empire?" "I do." "Do you pledge your tactical expertise to the Empire's growth and your people's prosperity?" "I do." "Then, by the ancient laws of binding, I name you my equal in authority and my partner in purpose. Rise, Prince Kane of Terra, defender of human interests, strategic advisor to the imperial throne." The title resonated through the chamber as the assembled witnesses, both physical and holographic, acknowledged the completion of an alliance that would reshape galactic politics. Through our bond, I felt Queen Zarathek's satisfaction at having secured not just a tactical advisor, but a genuine partner in leadership. The loneliness that had driven her to seek this arrangement was already beginning to fade, replaced by shared purpose and mutual respect. Morrison stepped forward. "Your Majesties, Earth's government will be honored to formalize this alliance through appropriate diplomatic channels. The pleasure is ours, Admiral Morrison. Queen Zarathek's smile was radiant with victory and genuine happiness. Welcome to the Empire. I believe you will find our partnership most beneficial. As the ceremonial weapons were exchanged and the formal declarations concluded, I felt the full weight of what we had accomplished. Humanity would no longer struggle alone on the galaxy's edge. We had gained a protector, an advocate, and access to technologies that would revolutionize our civilization. The price had been my individual freedom, but in return, I had gained something unprecedented, the ability to guide the destiny of two species from a position of actual authority. Through the throne room's windows, I watched Morrison's fleet begin moving into formation with Imperial vessels, the first steps of integration already beginning. The joke that had started this entire sequence now seemed like destiny rather than accident. Queen Zarathek took my hand as the ceremony concluded, her touch warm despite her scaled skin. Through our bond, I felt her commitment to honoring every promise she had made. The alliance would prosper because both of us were invested in its success. "Are you ready to begin our reign together?" she asked, her mental voice carrying anticipation and determination in equal measure. Looking out at the combined fleet that would soon carry news of this alliance across the galaxy, I felt the weight of unprecedented responsibility settle across my shoulders. But alongside that weight came the strength to bear it and the knowledge that humanity's future had never been brighter. "I'm ready," I replied, and meant every word. The Empire had gained a human perspective on strategy and diplomacy. Humanity had gained protection, resources, and a voice in galactic politics. And I had gained a partner whose mind complemented mine in ways I was only beginning to understand. The galaxy would never be the same, and that was exactly what we both intended.